Hey everybody, it's Kaladesh, and welcome back to another premiere draft of Kaladesh Remastered. Kind of a surprise plot twist here. They didn't even announce this on the Magic Arena announcements, but we get to play the original vehicle format, which is a really cool one. This is back when we had kind of a classic sort of artifact set where there are a bunch of colorless artifacts in here, unlike what we see recently with like Duskborn and Aetherdrift, where sure there's a lot of artifacts in the sets, but they're mostly like two-color signpost uncommon vehicles and monocolored artifacts and stuff. These are the traditional old school colorless artifacts, which makes this a pretty cool draft format. There's a lot you can do here. You can make picks like pick one filigree familiars and stuff. That's just a fine solid filler card because that's something that ends up in your deck no matter what. Whatever colors you end up with, you just get to shove this in there and have a nice little 2-for-1 play. So really do like the format. I love artifact nonsense, and this is some pretty classic artifact nonsense, at least when it comes to the modern era of artifacts where we now have vehicles and stuff. This is as classic as a vehicle set can possibly be. So without further ado, let's get into the draft. We had a really strong rare. This is very self-explanatory. If you just read the abilities, it's a very powerful hasting, flying, gigantic, fire-breathing threat. So we just take the best card in the pack there. Even though we could take a colorless card to stay flexible, I'm not going to do it over a super strong rare like the Skyship Stalker. So for our pick 2, we've got a few options here. I think literally a few. My favorite cards are Prophetic Prism. This is very, very solid. It's a good little piece of fixing because it replaces itself no matter what. Make sure you have whatever color you need off of it. So just a nice card to take early as it ends up in your deck, almost no matter what. But there's also a very strong black combat trick with Subtle Strike, very solid cheap removal with red with the Chandra's Pyrohelix. The splits damage around as well, and there are some good 1 toughness cards in the format, so it does sometimes take out 2 things. There's also Monstrous Onslaught, but I'm honestly not the highest on that spell. Just because you do have to have like a really high power creature on board for it to be exciting, and then also tap out for a 5-mana sorcery and hope your opponent doesn't interact with your creature at all. It is one of those kind of green removal spells that can get blown out by a well-timed removal spell from your opponent. So pick 3, we'll take a Fire Forger's Puzzle Knot. Last pick, I just went for the Pyrohelix. I'm just going to take the solid removal that's on color to our incredibly powerful rare. I'm going to do so the same here with the Fire Forger's Puzzle Knot. This is basically a weaker version of Pyrohelix. But really it's just a different version of Pyrohelix. In some decks, there are ways you can use this Puzzle Knot that are arguably better than the way you use the Pyrohelix. One of the main mechanics in this format is Improvise, which allows you to tap your artifacts that are just sitting around on the board to help you cast your spell. So it's like Convoke, but for artifacts. So getting some mana out of the Puzzle Knot is a possibility. There's also cards that trigger every time you sacrifice something, or ways to pick up artifacts from your grave. So Puzzle Knot plays a lot better than it looks, and I think that's true for most of the Puzzle Knots in the set, but particularly the Fire Forger's Puzzle Knot, because again, there are some really strong 1 toughness cards in the format. Pick 4, there's the Improvise mechanic I was talking about, as you can see on Whir of Invention, which I think is fine, but triple blue is a huge commitment. I don't think that's a good enough reason to move to that color. There's a very solid removal spell out of white with Revoke Privileges. It's just a pacifism style ability, but because this is the very first vehicle set, it's also going to stop you from crewing your vehicles with that creature, which is definitely relevant. But what I'm going to take here is my favorite common in the format, Self-Assembler. This is a 5-mana 4/4, not the greatest deal in the universe, but it's completely colorless, so it fits into any deck, and what makes it so powerful is when it enters, it searches for any other assembly worker in your deck and puts it into your hand. So the way you want to play that in draft is ideally to just draft more Self-Assemblers. So anytime you draw one Self-Assembler, you've essentially drawn them all. You're going to cast one, grab the next one, cast that next one the next turn, grab the next one after that. It's a very, very strong card if you get at least 2 copies. Even 2 copies is a very solid playable, but if you have 3 or 4, this card handedly wins in a top deck war or board style situation where you're both just waiting to draw some kind of gas off the top, and you're like, ooh, well now I know I'm going to draw 3 4/4s in a row these next few turns. So the Self-Assembler, very nice card. For pick 5, I like the Sweatworks Brawler here. It's an on-color improvised card, and it's a pretty solid one. If we can cast this for 3 mana, it's a very good deal. 3 mana, 3/3 Menace, and that's not too hard to do. You can go turn 2 Puzzle Knot into turn 3 Sweatworks Brawler, so I do like the card quite a bit. And now pick 6, as much as I like Sweatworks Brawler, and sticking to mono red for now, keeping things really open, we get past a pretty strong black rare, pick 6, which is a very solid sign for the color. So you want to draft a really artifact-heavy deck for this card, but you want to do that for almost any deck in this format. If you do, you're going to get a ton of damage to your opponent. So the Fabricate ability allows you to put +1/+1 counters on this, or put servos on the board, and the card is strong either way. If you have other good artifacts on board, usually you want to put the counters onto the Marionette Master itself. That way, when you sack your Fireforger's Puzzle Knot, or chump with your 1/1 servo, or whatever, you're making your opponent lose 4 life every time an artifact goes to the grave, which stacks up really quick. So this is a very, very strong card. And if you draw it when you have an empty board and you're like getting beaten down, then it plays well too. You get 3 chump blockers that all ping your opponent for 1 whenever they die. So really flexible, really strong card. For pick 7, like there are some fine filler red and black cards here, but I'm going to do something really weird where I'm just going to take the best card in the pack regardless of color, because I think these red and black cards are incredibly filler. But Rogue Refiner is probably the best card you can possibly ask for if you're the green-blue energy deck. Now, it is astronomically unlikely at this point that we move to the blue-green energy deck, but it's also highly unlikely, even if I take one of those red or black cards, I'm going to be excited to run it. So I'm going to take that Rogue Refiner just because the power level gap is so massive there, and we are still in pack 1, so it's not completely impossible for me to end up in green-blue. Pick 8, I'm going to take Subtle Strike here. This is nice for any aggressive deck. It is a potential 2-for-1 combat trick. You're putting a +1/+1 counter onto one creature and giving another one -1/-1. So if you attack it with 2/2/2s, your opponent blocks with 2/2/2s, you get to win both those combats at once, and you permanently keep that +1/+1 counter, which is really nice. Here, best card in the pack is pretty easily Trophy Mage here. If you get any solid 3-mana artifact to go with it, it's a little harder to draft around than the Treasure Mage we've seen recently in Ether Drift, because obviously that card hits multiple mana values, and there's tons of good 4- and 5-mana artifacts in Ether Drift. This one, a little harder to build around, but still quite good. Pick 10, I mean, the only cards I'm seeing here are really blue and green and energy related. I'm not pivoting just yet, but I'm pretty happy with the Rogue Refiner pick just in case. I think I take Riparian Tiger here. The Pima Aetherseer is pretty strange. I mean, by itself, it's like 3 energy. You get 1 forced block. A 4-mana 3 is just a really bad rate. It would have to have a really good ability for me to be excited with it, but the Riparian Tiger is just solid no matter what. Pick 11, nothing much here. Fortuitous Find. If the game goes really long, it's a fine Graveyard Recursion spell in black. Pick 12, really nothing here either. If the Workshop Assistant was an assembly worker, I'd probably take it. It's kind of weird that it isn't. It sounds like it would be, but, you know, we'll just take a 4th Bridge Prowler. I kind of have a bunch of ways to shoot 1 toughness things, because I've got Pyro Helix, I've got Puzzle Knot, now I have 2 4th Bridge Prowlers. But it's still a strong thing you can do in the format. All right, pack 2, pick 1. This is awkward for us. There's really nothing strong in red or black again, and that's nothing to do with what's being heavily drafted in the pod. That's just the pack that we opened, really. There's a fine 3-mana draw 2, I guess we can take. But I think the best cards are the white removal spells. Fairgrounds Warden is a removal spell on a stick. Thopter Arrest is just straight up removal on the enchantment there, so it's pretty hard to interact with it, where your opponent could blow up the Fairgrounds Warden easier, but the Fairgrounds Warden could also be attacking and blocking for you. So there's some benefits to each. I think I should just take Ether Meltdown, though, because this is like a fine removal spell for a deck that cares a lot about energy, and it's a color that we can actually pivot to. I really don't think we can pivot to a white deck here at this point. Pack 2, pick 2, Inventor's Apprentice is actually a pretty solid red card in the format, just a 1-mana 2/3, as long as you control an artifact. Not that hard to do so. Inventor's Goggles is actually pretty flexible, because there's an Artificer in like every color at common, and they're all pretty good. The Renegade map is also pretty flexible, giving you fixing no matter what you're doing. Suppose if I took a white spell, I could take Motorist here and try to move towards Boros. But Thriving Turtle's also pretty good. Rishkar's Expertise is a little gambly, but huge card draw if you've got some beef in the late games. That's also exciting. I mean, I might just be incredibly bold here, but the way that the second half of Pack 1 shaped up, I'm pretty interested in getting that blue-green pivot open here. And when there are strong colorless cards, I think it's really important to pick them with the way this draft is going for us right now, where we're green, blue, or red, black. We're not going to have a lot of overlap, so we're going to be pretty light on playables, whichever one of these two color pairs we end up in. So seeing a card like Skyskiff is really, really nice, because this fits into any deck in the format really well. It is a solid stat line for Kaladesh. I mean, this set obviously came out like right before Magic Arena, so cards have definitely gotten juiced. Draft formats have gotten a little bit more powerful in terms of average card quality between the Fire Design era and the Play Booster era, so probably if this were in a standard set, it'd be pretty bad, but back when Kaladesh came out, it's a very, very solid card. Also, the format just plays really well for it, where there are tons of ways to make these little 1/1 servos, like off of the Ether Swooper. And those 1/1 servos can crew the Sky Skiffs. So this is, I think, a pretty pivotal pick here, where we lock in on one of our two decks. I have a really synergistic green-blue energy pile started if I take the Ether Swooper, but I also just have a raw power Rakdos deck if I take the Scrapper Champion. Our mana curve is very awkward for the Rakdos. We don't have any 2-drops, we don't have any 3-drops, but we sure have a Marionette Master and a Skyship Stalker and a Scrapper Champion. I'm gonna go for the consistency rather than raw power here, and I'm gonna move towards the Sultai, or not Sultai, the Simic build, because I just think we actually have a better variety of cards, and they also synergize really well so far. I'll keep Rakdos in the back of my mind here, but I'm going to start pushing a little heavier towards Simic and take Bomat Bazaar Barge now. Again, one of these really nice picks for just a very strong colorless spell that fits into whatever we end up being. All right, pick 6, let's go. The Rakdos cards suck here. So it's a Thriving Turtle for the energy deck. Gives us 2 energy when we play it, and it can sit there getting counters on it. Generally speaking, for really small creatures like the turtle and the swooper and stuff, you'd rather be just spitting out more servos. This is still a really nice ability. I mean, by itself, you attack one time with this thing and it turns into a 1/4. So leaving the dust is a fine piece of bounce kind of interaction. Pick number 8. Here's another Skyskiff. I don't mind that at all. Gives us another card towards moving back to Rakdos if I open some incredible Rakdos Mythic or something, and I have to just really scrape for playables. I don't think Isover is super good, because the permanent has to be already tapped, and there is definitely enchantment removal in this format. This is a format where all of the ways to blow up artifacts, generally speaking, also blow up enchantments. There's green ways to blow up an artifact or enchantment, white ways to blow up an artifact or enchantment. So, enchantment-based removal, not the greatest, unless it gives you like a good enter effect, or it does just like fully deal with any even untapped creature. Pick 10, Thriving Turtle. I'm certainly happier with the blue and green cards that I'm seeing throughout this whole pack than the Rakdos ones, so I'm feeling like we made the right decision moving towards Simic here, because we would really have gotten some mediocre cards out of this pack otherwise. Inventor's Goggles is fine. I don't think I have a ton of Artificers, though. I've got like 2. Gearseeker Serpent, pretty good if you get enough artifacts to make it cheaper, but Hinterland Drake is a fine filler flyer no matter what. Got a lot of servo nonsense hopefully going on. Take another swooper really highly if we see it. Take at the top end here. Pick 12, Ornamental Courage is a fine combat trick. Ambition's a fine late game draw spell. Just take the Courage. Alright, we got the Implement of Examination, fine card to go with our Trophy Mage here, so that does draw us some cards. And now this final pack, we are going to focus on just getting some more creatures really over anything else, and then we'll have a nice solid Simic energy deck at our disposal. So pack 3, pick 1. I guess Shipwreck Moray is the best card synergistically speaking here, so I really don't mind that. Lifecraft Cavalry can be really big as well, so that could be fine, but I do like the energy production of that Moray. And it's another card that plays fine by itself, moving that power and toughness around wherever you need it. It's a pretty weak pack overall. Pack 3, pick 2. High Spire Artisan's a fine way to clump up the board, and I'm really looking for more threats. Stratagem can be fun. We do have a lot of enter effects here, but again, I gotta work on that. Creature count, I gotta work on clumping up the board. Pack 3, pick 3. I like Prophetic Prism here. We might be able to splash in a little bit of off-color removal to add to the removal count, because blue and green, the biggest flaw in this archetype is the lack of removal. Like, there's a pretty mediocre malfunction here, which is, again, weak to bounce spells and naturalize effects that blow up an enchantment. And both of those are pretty prevalent in the format. Like, if we play this and then the Ether trade wins, it's pretty nasty. I'd rather take the Prism, I think. Pick number 4. Yes, now I could have Prism and Wild Wanderer. 2 different ways to get my splash color. And then just take any off-color removal. I mean, the splash color could even just be red for Pyro Helix and Puzzle Knot here. And then I don't even have to draft more removal. I just have those. They're only small removal spells, but could still be relevant for sure. Theorist is really nice for the energy synergy, and it gives us another 2, but I'm going to make sure that we can hit some splashed-in removal of some form. Another Self-Assembler, there we go. Can't really take anything over that, because if I don't get a second copy, then the first Self-Assembler is useless. Pick number 6. Whew! Nice late Ether Swooper for us. Love to see it. Beautiful. Filling out those cheap slots in the deck. Metallic Rebuke plays super well in this format. There's plenty of bombs and stuff you can counter, but also you get those little servo tokens spitting out by the Ether Swoopers. You got Sky Skiffs or Prophetic Prism sitting there, so it's pretty easy to improvise this and have a nice literal mana leak. 1 and a blue to counter something that costs 3 or less, or sometimes you can even cast it for only 1 mana. Very nice card. Pick 8. Schematics is filler. Construct is filler. Crusher's filler. Even Select for Inspection's filler, but probably my favorite of all this filler. Pick 9. I am not interested in running any of this. Especially not Consulate. Turn that card is astronomically slow. Pick number 10. Not interested in running any of this. I'm honestly just going to rare draft here. I probably should have rare drafted in the pack with DePaula as well for a little bit more gems. We've kind of got a full deck here. We just got a couple of these non-creature spells and boom, solid Simic Energy brew. I'm very happy to have gotten another Self-Assembler to make sure that we have a bit more beef in here. Make this Rishkar's expertise more consistent of a bomb. Just have more big creatures. Yeah, this deck looks really nice. Felt a little mediocre for sure during pack 2, because again, we did like completely flip off of our first 2 colors. So we had to lose a lot of our playables, but again, in Kaladesh, you can flip a bit later than usual because like we had a Self-Assembler, a Sky Skiff, stuff like that. So we had some playables even flipping completely in the opposite direction in terms of our colors. We had a little bit of overlap in the cards that we got to run by the end of this draft, which is really nice. I don't think I'm doing trade wins goofy stuff here. Oh, Ether Theorist I will actually definitely play. Really happy to see that come back. At least 2 more cards should get cut out of here. Probably Ornamental Courage Select for Inspection. And this would be a 16-land deck. But it has double Theorist to be scrying a lot. Prophetic Prism. It's kind of a cantrip at 2 mana. That immediately digs a little further towards the next land. Refiner's a cantrip, but once you get to like 3 mana plus, it's a little awkward to try to count those towards getting more mana. Like, I can't really count Wild Wanderer as another land, because I need 4 lands to play in the first place. I feel like I should cut 1 more non-land card here. This looks like a 17-lander. I mean, honestly, since we made playables in our main colors and might not be doing the splash, we could cut the Prism or the Wanderer here. Because the removal that we would splash in doesn't even really help against what we're the most scared of, which is like really big, scary bombs. It's just good at clearing out the little stuff that I can already block with like 1/3s and 1/1 servos and 2/3 flyers and stuff. So I almost want to just like cut all the fixing and slap in Another bounce spell. Put the select or the trade winds back in, I suppose. Combat trick could be fine too. Try to leverage a combat trick as removal if we get it at the right time. Because these are both temporary. Yeah, one of the three. I'll go Courage here. Go for that. Efficiency. 1 mana +1/+3 untap. It is kind of a lot. Alright, this looks pretty fine to me. We have 13 blue cards, only 5 green, but I do have a double green card, so I don't want to go really, really heavy skewed towards blue, so I like just one more blue source, 9-8 split. Pretty fine on that. Deck looks quite solid. Excited to see how it does. So without further ado, let's hop back into the Kaladesh Remastered format. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1. This is a very slow hand. I have 1 turtle, and then I'm not going to play any threats until Gear Seeker Serpent way at the top of the curve. But I got the implement in the middle to do a little bit of card draw. And we have plenty of solid draws here. Got both the colors. Okay, we now have 1 really bad draw. If we top deck the second self-assembler, then they're both literally just 5 mana 4/4s, and that would be pretty tragic. Playing against a Boros deck here. Luckily no 1-drop for them, but they do play the best cheap red common in the format. Probably the best red common, period. The little ether cards are great. The ones that give energy and then spit out servos, which is why we took our ether swoopers so highly. We've got our own version of the card. So they can Pyro Helix here, trade a Chandra's Pyro Helix into the turtle. Oh, they just have full-on Welding Sparks. That's not the worst in the world for me, because getting them to cash that in on just my 1-drop stops them from using it on something really big like a Gear Seeker Serpent later. And Welding Sparks is super capable of that in this format. You can get a lot of artifacts down and have this do 6-7 damage. If you can live towards slamming all these down, this should be a decent matchup. The thing that makes it a rough matchup is how quick it is. We can't often live to slamming all these things down, but when we do, it's good. Casting the self-assembler before anybody else, because I'm not going to be declaring attacks anytime soon, so the extra attack trigger on the Riparian Tiger doesn't really matter at all. And the sooner I cast this self-assembler, the less likely I am to just randomly top deck the other copy and completely nullify its ability. They do have the Skyweather shot for the self-assembler, but obviously we have 3 more huge blockers coming up soon enough. But I'm going to take quite a hit here for that. I guess just 3 damage, realistically. I just get hit by the Brawler. Nobody else has attacks in the Theorist. Great body against our opponent's deck. Here's our Scry 1. Find a forest. I don't think I keep that, because I'm only going to need a 7th land. Alright, well I got one anyway. I'm only going to need a 7th land if this self-assembler dies. I'm going to play the self-assembler, because if it doesn't die, then I can Gear Seeker for 6 next turn and hold up the Ornamental Courage. Okay, I technically shouldn't have shuffled, because now I potentially shuffled the forest back on top. But I instinctively always like to do it, just in case I forgot that I have like a 3rd copy or something. Alright, we'll see how big of a blowout whatever they're going to do here is. It shouldn't be that bad. Either way I do this, I'm going to take 3, so I think I'll kill these. Get them down to 1 creature. Two damage to it. Yeah, 3 extra toughness is going to be huge here. Wonderful. And there's a Renegade, so they get a 2/2 and a 1/1. Since something died, they get the Revolt trigger. Alright, well that's not the forest. At least I didn't shuffle the forest back on top. Okay, there's High Spire Artisan. Don't mind those stats. But I think we're just on Serpent. I don't believe I have any way in this deck to draw a card and discard a card. And our opponent's not a black deck, so they're not going to make us discard either, so I think I'm supposed to just play this land. Yeah, in case I hit some draw spell. If I hit like the 3 mana 3/2 that draws a card when I cast it, and then I would want to cast that plus the Tiger. I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't play my land this turn. Because I play the land this turn, now I have my 7th land. Next turn I could play that thing, draw a card, draw the 8th land, play it, and play the Tiger. So there's a chance we get punished for not just running lands out here. Yeah, we scrying. We scrying. Trophy Mage. Actually bad now. It's just a 3 mana 2/2. We've already hit our implements. And that is our 1/3 drop artifact. Draw for turn is Metallic Rebuke, which is honestly not that bad. I have to tap a Self-Assembler for it if I want to play Riparian Tiger. Board should be chunky enough if I just like play an Artisan. Take the servo off of it. I can still hold up Rebuke then. I don't know, the Tiger board feels safer. This is just one turn of not holding up the ideal Metallic Rebuke. I still technically have it up. Like, if they cast a Bomb Rare, I'm still just going to cast it. It's just not ideal in that, like, if they play just a decent creature pre-combat that I might want to Rebuke, I probably don't, because then I don't have Assembler up on blocks. I think I would rather hold on to Rebuke against Salivating Gremlins either way. That's not that bad. Okay, and then a Haster, sure. These are fine. Save Rebuke in case they have like a Skyship Terror or something. I forgot to scry. That is a genuine punt there. Okay. Honestly, think a 1/4 is better. At this point. Chunkier body. Getting close to enough mana to maybe just start going for some attacks with Gear Seeker. But that does make our worst blocker not an attacker anymore. Oof. Okay, yeah, that makes Gremlins really bad, actually. 2 artifacts off 1 card. Couldn't counter with Rebuke because they have the 3 mana up anyway. But maybe I should have countered Salivating Gremlins. Was not expecting Puzzle Knot like that. Yeah, it's kind of rough. Guess it trades into Assembler. Sure. Cash in a little extra damage. Yeah, it's definitely been long enough since I played the format that I forgot how many synergies there are for each different card. Oh, I forgot to cry again because I was thinking about other stuff. Could cost me a lot here, because not playing another creature this turn is really bad. Will our opponent hit any lands themselves? They've done no scrying, they're on 5 mana. Done a decent chunk, we're on 8. But they can also be running less lands than us. Alright, come on. Rishkar's Expertise is the biggest banger in the deck. We can find that. Boris is really not that. I can't afford to tap the Theorist during my upkeep. I need it up as a blocker. Alright. Good draw here. Now we have a Moray as another blocker. And I get to scry 5 more turns here. Find one of our big plays. Again, the biggest being the Expertise for sure. Go Vigilance on Mastodon, so they drew something to eat the Serpent with. Hopefully it is just another Pyro Helix or something, where we still trade here. Feels pretty bad to go for like a double block here and then have them just kill one of these two and then they both die. Or not have them definitely do that, but have them open to being able to do that. Built to last. That's pretty gross. Please draw some lands, opponent. I will start completely begging at this point. Scry a land away again. Good work from Theorist. Oh, man. Okay, I got 3 lands on the bottom. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 here. So that's 13 of our lands we've gone through now. There's only 4 in our top, like, 15. Our opponent, however, only 5 lands in, almost halfway through the deck. So they should still have at least like 11 lands if they're running a 16-lander out of 23. All right, nice. They're passing. Find an Ether Swooper. They don't have any flyers, and I will get a couple chumpers for that. Not the greatest in the world, but still a keep, I think. I think I'm only going to scry with Theorist one more time now, because I would like to get 2 separate servos off Swooper if it sticks around. Alright, they might actually have a land clump in hand. Might be a little closer to us in land count than I thought. Rogue Refiner's so good. Wow, okay. Yeah, I forgot I had other super, super good cards here. I was just all in on Rishkar's expertise, but Refiner's actually huge, especially with Swooper out. Okay. Still got so much to break through to find lethal. Like, if I find expertise, what are the odds I just randomly mill out at that point? Because I think we've cast all our big threats, right? The Serpent, the Self-Assemblers. So we're going to have to make do with, you know, all these middling creatures like this. Okay, Exemplar is pretty bad. Control 3 or more artifacts, it gains first strike. Okay, it's just a 3/2 first strike. It's not that bad. I block with a 0/5. Yeah, I don't have... I can't hit them with Swooper 18 more turns because I'll mill out by then. There we go. Yeah, we have 2 Sky Skiffs in here. Okay. Okay, that's certainly a plan. Got the servos to crew those all day. Here's the Skiff. Start hitting for 3 a turn, and now we do kill them before we mill out. Probably even with the Rishkar's expertise. Alright, yeah, they are definitely flooding now. Land and a Renegade map. Ask and you shall receive. Thank you, Arena Shuffler Gods. Our opponent has found the land clump. Tempted to scry. I should almost definitely just make another servo, though. Oh my god, that's so good. 5/5 blocker. Again, a little awkward. I am milling myself a tiny bit more here, but I actually do have a couple more flyers in here. I still have a Skiff and another Swooper, I think. So that's actually our win con. Let's just keep playing more flyers. I don't even know if I have more lands at this point. Skiff on up. Jam 3. Get that servo. I'll double check the lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And there's 3 on the bottom. Yeah, so there's still 2 more lands in our top 9. About 1 out of every 8 is a land. Until the very bottom where they're basically all lands. Sorry, not 1 out of every 8, 1 out of every 4. Okay, well, they drew something. Goodbye, fish. I don't mind losing the vehicle here. If it is a combat trick, it's going to be +2/+2 minimum, which is bad either spot that I block with either creature. So I'm going to block in a way that is better if it's specifically a damage spell. Again, if it's the +2/+2 trick, either way I block, it's not going to be very good for me. If it's like the +2/+2 trampler, +2/+2 indestructible, then either way I lose a creature without even trading. But this way, if it's like the burn spell, they could only use it to kill Moray with first strike damage, which doesn't matter because Moray's not going to kill Exemplar anyway. Or the Bizarre Barge dies after actually killing their card. So yeah, it is a burn spell, so this is super fine. It does kill both of our cards, which is slightly rough, but we killed their 4/5 now. It's all really small stuff from them. It's a very big, very wide board, but as long as they don't hit the... I think it's literally Inspired Charge in this format, the original, or the classic +2/+1 to everybody. As long as they don't hit that, we're good. Well, now there's only 1 land left in our top 9. Not top 9, now it's top 8. Yeah, because 4 at the bottom, we know there's 3 lands there. So 1 land the next 8 at this point. They're playing completely blind off the top here. I'm at 8 life. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 attackers, one of which is Menace, which means to block literally everything I'd need 11 blockers. Or no, 10 blockers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blockers. If I attack with 2 things, I only have 6 blockers, but that still means I could double block there, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just take like 2 damage here. I'm still pushing damage, I believe. If they do draw like Inspired Charge, we kind of just die, but that's true even if I hold up these blockers, because I'll just lose my entire board and take like 4 anyway. Inspired Charge is 2 white and 2. It's +2/+1 to everybody. Just would kill me at any point this game. Okay, another swooper. Like that. That speeds up the clock, gives us another blocker. I'm going to crew with that because I'm not going to block with it. Huge draw. Yeah, I mean, I think the best draws in our deck at this point were the second swooper, the second sky skiff. Just getting that flying damage in. We do 4 damage a turn, 2 swings and it's over. There's another land from them. They have found their 10th. And Rishkar's Expertise. I can win the game fast enough to use this to be really safe from the counterattacks. I'll save the Leave in the Dust. Or if they play a flying blocker, and now we are locked in for the 2-turn kill. Man, this was a really, really Ether Drift style first game. Absolute grind fest. Kaladesh is much more aggressive. These kind of Boros decks can do a lot of nasty, nasty work. Even blue-green. Every archetype in the format can do some really good aggressive stuff too. So a little while we went the whole deck through here. Alright, let's hope they didn't top deck Inspired Charge on the last possible turn of the game, because that would be devastating. Just a tragic way to lose it. Does not look like they did. Nope, just play an Aviary Mechanic. That's going to be game. Flyers are strong. GG from opponents. And we do start things off 1-0. Alright, here we are on the draw for game number 2. This, honestly, in this format could be a mulligan that we're on the draw and we don't play anything till turn 3, but I'm going to hope we're not against a super aggro red deck here. But as I said before, every color in this format can play pretty aggressively. So we could have a few issues here. Alright, they do start with a 2-mana 2/1, get a few energy off that. Looks like a green-blue mirror match, but they are on the play, plus started with a 2-drop. I guess I drew into one, the Sky Skiff. Not going to attack or block immediately, but it's going to be crewable next turn. There's Trophy Mage from our opponent. We'll see what 3-drop they manage to find. Oh, a great rare. That is definitely a stronger Trophy Mage than ours. I think I need to go wide here. So we will get the servo token. So I have 2 blockers up. Take nothing for now. Grind the game out a little bit. I don't think I start jamming into them, but maybe I do. I mean, they're going to play a Mana Rock this turn. Yeah, I guess I should probably actually try to be the aggressor here, because we know that they're going to have huge stuff pretty quickly. So maybe we're trying to outrace something really explosive from just completely taking us out of the game. We'll see. Oh, Ornamental Courage, sure. Mine 0-3, no! Alright, there's an implement. Moray is pretty nice here. That flexibility of its power and toughness, where we can just spend 1 energy and it's a 2/3. Making their attacks bad if they don't have another courage or something. I just realized our opponent is Ambition the Ambitious. That's very funny. There's a Pima Outrider. Very solid stats. 4/4 Trampler, 3/3, and a 1/1. Okay. I'm about to get clocked by a 5/5 Caravan. Yep. Card is beef incarnate here. Got the courage. I think I have to take this. For now. They have another combat trick. This is going to be pretty bad for me. If I play Implement of Examination and hold up green, like it's so insanely obvious. If I could just like peek at the top card and see if it's a forest or not, I could crack this. And if there's a forest, play the forest, hold up courage. That would be beautiful, but we can't know if we're going to hit a green source in the top 2 or not. I think I'm just playing a turtle and passing so that I have courage up. But I could like play turtle and implements, and then the implement means I've got the mana for Gear Seeker next turn. That Gear Seeker is big enough to block Caravan without dying, so it forces interaction from them. I am at 11. This is a wide board. It's much less risky than trying to Ornamental Courage as a combat trick against potentially 5 open mana over there they could have for their own instance. Yeah, I think we pass, and we just need to fully be on blocks at this point. The early aggro swings with Skiff really did not pan out for us. Okay. Just get some mana from a Wild Wanderer. This Trophy Mage Caravan has been the worst for us. Assuming they've got some kind of combat trick to push damage next turn if they're swinging out this aggressively. But we'll see. I get to wipe out a lot of their board. I'm only at 3 life, though, at that point. I think it's our best bet. We're at 3 life, but we have 3 blockers up for their 3 attackers, which are going to be Wanderer, Outrider, Caravan. I guess the Servo's still there. The Sage and the Mage are gone. Still feel it's our best bet. Top deck land, please, so I can play Serpent and hold up Courage. That would be so good. 5 drop. And all I can do there. Play Serpent. Way too gambly to just draw 2, hold up Courage. Please no removal for Serpent. Okay, there's an Ether Theorist. Sage. Final card in hand is... Unknown. They're going to pass turn. Let's go. We're still alive. And I'm in a really good spot when I hit land 5. So now I can pop this towards it. Probably gonna have to play Trophy Mage as a 2/2. Yeah, I'll play the Trophy Mage over the Ornamental Courage. Have I scryed anything to the bottom of this game? No, so I can shuffle just in case there's another 3-drop in my deck, but I'm pretty sure there is not. It's just our 1 implement. Take action. Yeah, tragic. And I have the tools to clutter this board up even more. Once it's really cluttered, I can start jamming in 2 in the sky every turn, put them on a 8-turn clock. But they immediately scry to the top. Gear Seekers. Yeah, that'll get me. Alright, well. So much for all that thinking. We move on to game number 3. Here we are for game 3 on the draw again, sadly. Our opponent starts with a Tune with Ether. Very, very nice card. It's good mana fixing, gives you a couple energy as well, which is sweet for the energy-based decks. Our opponent goes for a second green source, so they got some kind of double green card in hand coming up. Another slower hand. We're not finding our swoopers and our theorists and our openers, sadly. I'm a little low on 2-drop creatures. I have 2 Sky Skiffs, which don't really count because they're vehicles, which makes it so we only have the 2 Ether Swoopers, 2 Ether Theorists, so 4 2-drop creatures. But I also have 2 1-mana creatures, so I have 6 2-mana or less creatures in this deck, so I think the draws are also just statistically slightly rough today. Here's a Shipwreck Moray to keep this Rhino off of us. A land away from Magical Christmas Land here. I guess 2 lands from being super happy, but 1 land for being so fine. They could have an instant speed removal spell for Moray, but they might want to save it for after we spend energy. Yeah, Subtle Strike would kill it whether or not I spent energy on it, so we just go in here. Because they could Subtle Strike. Oh, this is a 4/5 and that's a 0/4. Okay, Blossoming Defense. That's particularly sad. But again, could kill it either way. So the only thing that really happened here is I just lost a couple energy. If I didn't spend anything at all, they could still just Blossom and kill. And we're never going to know for sure if they're holding up an instant or not, because Puzzle Knot's always going to be an instant. Oof, the Armorcraft Judge for the 2-for-1, 3/3 plus draw a card. And I'm just never hitting my 5th land today. Maybe I should be on 18 lands. Happy I went for the 17 at least, because, oh lord, if I were on 16, we would have extra big issues apparently. Alright. Cracking the card draw has gotten us to the mana. Actually got us all the way to 6 mana, which is great. Alright. Let's get 2-for-1 by casting a combat trick on blocks against open mana. We are under enough pressure that I have to kind of open myself up to the blowout here. So it's going to have my life total if I let it all in. Alright, thank goodness. No instant speed trick of their own, so we don't get blown out. Long Tusk Cub, that card is absurd. One of the mythic uncommons of the format, in my opinion. For 2 energy, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, but what's really gross is if you have it in your opening hand, you drop it turn 2 on the play. It's brutal. Because if it connects once, then boom, it's a 3/3 that's really hard to block, so you kind of have to let it in. But then if you let it in, boom, it's a 4/4, and so on and so forth. Aetherborn Marauders, very funny. Can move all the +1/+1 counters over to it, but they choose not to here. Let's get the biggest Rishkar's expertise possible to try to stabilize, because our deck is super, super low on removal, so we just gotta try to slam down our beef to stop their attacks. I've got the 2/3 flyer on their 2/2 flyer and the 5/6 against their 4/5. That's the plan. Unfortunately, the Puzzle Knot gives them the energy they need to make the Thriving Rhino attack as a 5/6. And then we bounce off each other, and then next turn they can make it a 6/7. They're not going to go for the attack, though. That means they almost definitely don't have a trick, because the only way I could kill Rhino is like double blocking, which would be really weak to any trick. Self-Assembler is the draw. Okay, as much as I love the expertise. If I expertise now and draw 5, the odds of hitting another Self-Assembler are high enough. I think I should get this over with first. And I think I have time to do it, judging by the fact that they didn't really do much of anything last turn. If they had the trick or removal, they would have been slamming us. I don't think I'm going to scry with Theorist next turn, because no matter what I draw, I think the plan stays the same now. We just cast the expertise. Okay. Yeah, and I'm fine with any draw. Even lands are fine at this point, because I'm going to have so many cards that extra mana will come in useful. Or will come in handy. There's the Tiger. 26 life over there. Start attacking with a couple sky skips a turn, I suppose. Well, one a turn. I do need the other one up to stop them from lifelinking and counteracting all its damage in the first place. I don't really want to be going for unblockable Gear Seeker Serpent attacks, because then I have to be trying to make double blocks on the Long Tusk Cub and the Thriving Rhino and stuff, which feels pretty bad. Let's go. More flyers, the more the merrier. Very happy to see that. I'm definitely not blocking with Ether Swooper, so I will crew with that instead of Theorist. 2 mana, 2/2 but I do need to hold up one of my sky skiffs to stop the lifelink counterattack. Cool. Here's a turtle. Oh my god, this swooper is kind of insane if we can get past the Marauder. Because I have 11 energy. Should probably start attacking with my Riparian Tiger, honestly. It's a 6/6 trample on attacks. Cub can be a 5/5. I guess they can just double block it. I only kill the cub, but I don't hate that because it only blocks as a 4/4. I can't block with it any bigger. Swoop in with a sky skiff. I can't believe it costs 2 energy to buff that. I have 11 energy, I probably shouldn't be complaining. And it's not like I'm gonna be using the Ether Swooper energy regardless. Alright, cool. Yeah, that's a trade-up we could not have gotten on blocks, is getting that 4/5 off the board, because again, only a 4/4 on blocks, so I think that still played quite fine for me. Kind of awkward they drew the Death Toucher right after I chose not to fabricate the servo. The way the board was looking, I'd rather have a 4 toughness blocker here, right? Because block the 3/4, or block the 3/2. But now I want the 1/1 servo because I'll have to trade an actual creature in the Cobra. Rebuke is not bad. Alright, I mean, now they only really have the 1 cub that I'm scared of, the 1/5/5 I can just double block. So now I think I'm free to get Serpent attacks in. And speed things up even more. Maybe Ether Swooper is actually a better trade for the Cobra than Ether Theorist. I can also just take it, though. I'm at 16. Yeah, no, they're probably not even attacking with it in the first place. Fortuitous Find, that's a really nice one. Puzzle Knot and Armorcraft Judge. So play the Puzzle Knot. The Judge is a draw 1 here, and the Long Tusk Cub is now really big. Oh, I could have just countered the Armorcraft Judge. But I guess now I'm just going to counter whatever they drew into. I don't know why I blanked on the fact that I could just counter that. I don't think it's a massive miss to not do so, because again, I just counter the scary thing they drew. The 3/3 body itself doesn't matter much. It's just really the draw 1. And at that point, I can just counter the spell that they draw. But it is awkward. That was definitely a punt. As was not scrying. This is not a fantastic start, because I think we're only like 2 games in, and I'm already getting that, you know, eyes glaze over kind of board stall sort of thing. They brought back these Premier drafts to shake things up from all the super long Ether Drift board stalls, and I immediately just drafted the board stalliest deck, apparently. Alright, here comes the big cub. Just jump with turtle if I'm that scared. Oh, they've got 9 mana. Yeah, that sucks. I was gonna say Rebuke doesn't do anything against any of the bite down style removal spells on Serpent here. Yeah, that's brutal. That slows us down a lot. 6 turn clock now. Oh my god, I keep forgetting about Rebuke. What on earth am I doing? Again, not that either of these spells were individually super scary, but the longer I wait, the less likely Rebuke's to be able to counter anything at all. Man, I think this is the second time I've hit the implement, just the wrong time. Before the Trophy Mage. This is game 3. No, we lost. There was a second game in the middle that we lost really quickly. So that helps. Install the board stalls. Come on in, Sky Skiff. Alright, will I ever remember to cast Metallic Rebuke? It's probably too late now, because they'll have like 10 mana out. The odds of them not having an extra 3 up are getting really low. Send in the Cobra. I think you got me. Down to 14. Crack the Wood Weaver's Puzzle Knot. Ooh, if they crack that pre-casting something, let's go. I rebuked something, there you go. That's somewhat equivalent to the other cards in quality. 6/6 trample on this board would be mildly threatening. I think it's a little worse though than the other 2 cards. Honestly, Armorcraft Judge probably would have been the one that panned out the best if I countered it. Oh man, all these puzzle knots have been gaining them life too. Really drag it on. What do I even have left to draw at this point? Rogue Refiner, Leave in the Dust, another Swooper. Ether Meltdown would be massive. That's our best draw. Find the Ether Meltdown to speed up the flying damage a whole ton here. Get through the Marauder. Ether Swooper is still good enough to draw into, I think. So that when I do find the Meltdown, we have tons of flying getting in. Night Market Lookout. They get a vehicle that is so bad for me, just draining me every single turn. Without even having to attack, that's a key. I think the board's good enough to tap this pre-Refiner cast. Man, I don't actually think that's tremendous here, but I still want to play it. Just looking for our Meltdown and our Bounce, but then keeping every other non-land I see is like kind of counterintuitive. Because I'm like, no, but these are good. You don't understand. These are good Magic cards. If we find the bounce now, we win. So I'm going to do the upkeep scry. No, a second reach. You're not supposed to do that. You're really not supposed to do that. That's frustrating. Be a turn off from the kill. Nope. Nope. Yep. It's right there. I can force the Marauder to chump here, which is still probably gonna kill them. So the weird thing here is if I attack with both the Skiffs and both the Swoopers, they can block and kill a Swooper and gain 2 from that and be at 6, taking 5 from everybody else, going to 1. So they could actually like kill one of my flyers that way. But if I attack with only the 2 Skiffs, they can either take 4, go to 0, or chump a Skiff with Marauder. So it's actually better to not attack with more flyers here. It's kind of weird. Okay, well, just have it all. Okay. The crew's slightly awkward. They're going to have a legitimate counterattack here. Well, no, I'll have 2 servos. I'll have 2 servos still. But they'll have a moderately concerning counterattack. Oh, wait, no, they won't have a counterattack at all, because I Aether Meltdown to stop the lifelink. My brain is not accustomed to these grindy board stalls. And it should be by now, with all the Aether Drift we've played. This is a completely different format, but Aether Drift plays a lot like this. Kind of big board stall, considering crews and vehicles and stuff. Getting some evasive hits in where you can. Alright, it's going to be lethal. We are 2-1, heading into game number 4. Alright, now this looks like Kaladesh Remastered hand. It's weird because whenever these flashback formats pop up, I love doing a few drafts of them trying to show you what the format is kind of like, the essence of the format. I haven't felt that way this draft. This is not what I traditionally identified as the way that Kaladesh Remastered played out, all these board stalls and stuff that I've had with this deck. It's kind of just how this deck really plays out. There are some really good aggressive like energy style curves, a lot of good aggressive red curves in the format and stuff like that. There's definitely a huge element of aggro in the format as well as the slower grindier board stalls that we've been playing, but I've not been doing a good job of showing that off, so kind of excited for this game to maybe show a little bit of that here. I don't actually get to hold this Rebuke up here, but I still think it's worth having the energy to use both of these. Making the Thriving Turtle a 2/5 is a massive deal. And then it's already like big enough to keep slamming in from that point on, so I will get the servo towards like Rebuke improvises and stuff. As well as just the solid body. Inventor's Goggles, sure, none of those are Artificers, so that's going to be 3 to equip. Oh, it's only 2 to equip, okay, that's not bad. 2/3 servo does matter a lot, so now I need more energy. But we draw the Aether Theorist because I am a absolute genius, unbeatable Magic player with massive amounts of skill. So we'll attack in, make it 3 power now. Holding up a Rebuke off our servo token, they're down to 11. This is what the blue aggro looks like in the format. As I said before, I think each color can play aggro really well in this set. Most colors can also play a better defensive role too. But this is the way that blue kind of plays aggro. It's the Thriving Turtle into Aether Swooper curve out. You drop these down, and from there it's like rebuking their big plays and then playing your own big creatures. So yeah, very nice to show off a little bit of a more aggressive game there, as we are now 3-1, heading into game number 5. Here we are on the play again for game number 5. We're 3-1 currently, and I'm very happy with this opener. It's a lot of expensive stuff here, so I'm going to have to Ether Theorist into lands. If our opponent does not start with some good creatures we want to block with Theorist, I'm just going to scry my upkeep towards the mana. It's all very dependent on what we draw and what they cast here. Like, if they have an empty board and I draw no lands, then obviously I'll be scrying in my upkeep, but maybe if they have some good creatures, I won't be doing that, or if I just naturally draw the lands. We will see. There's a Metallic Rebuke for us, so I am going to put that stop on my upkeep here. I did not hit land 3 yet. Do they drop a good 2-drop creature? They do, but it has Menace anyway, and it would kill my Theorist, so I don't want to block that. So I'm going to scry in my upkeep. We are really desperate for mana here, so anything that isn't a land is going to the bottom, even if it's our strongest card, like Rishkar's Expertise. I'd probably be the saddest if it was like a Rogue Refiner, like a really strong 3-mana card, but I'd still have to put it on bottom. So they do have the option of cracking their Renegade map and grabbing their second color of mana now, which I think they'll probably do. It'll get rid of the Menace on the Bruiser, but I don't have any creatures up anyway. Alright, scry away the big serpents. Draw the land, feels good. Now I have a Rebuke up, and we really need to hit land 4 turn 4, so I think yet again we are quite likely to scry in our upkeep. And yeah, they're just going to tap out for Caravan, we'll counter that. Take 3, scry in our upkeep. Slam down a 4-drop, hopefully. Got 2 shots at a land here off the top. Shot number 1 is a failure, put that on bottom. Shot number 2 is the Sky Skiff. At least it's castable, but not the mana. And then our opponent is locked in for land 4. They can just crack their Renegade map for it. Renegade map's a pretty nice card. It's similar to like an Evolving Wilds, but it has some format-specific synergies that are pretty nice. Like, when you don't need it yet, you can just leave it on board for your cards that care about having an artifact out, like the Emerald Bruiser. But there's also the Revolt mechanic that triggers if something died this turn. So you can save it for that, and then that turn crack it, get your other color, and trigger all your Revolt cards. Alright, now against 5 power on board, we're getting to enough pressure where this feels like a big turning point, where missing a land again would be really bad. So we do hit land 4. Main phase, drop the Moray. That's big enough to keep the Innovator off of us and give us more energy for Theorist to scry again next upkeep towards Self-Assembler. If I don't hit the land next turn, it's not as bad as it has been. But I think I'm still scrying in the upkeep because Self-Assembler, something that's just like a big stat line by itself, doesn't need to be crewed, is a little more important now that we're a bit behind on board and taking some damage here. Alright, so we're going to get -X or something, I suppose. Some kind of removal spell. Subtle Strike would work, because the Moray is going to only have 1 toughness if I activate it again. So if they +1/+1 the Innovator, I can't do anything about that. Okay. Looks like more likely to be -X or something. So Renegade map is going to find their splash color or something now. Nope, 3rd island. Vengeful Rebel. Okay, well they already had an on-land card die. They didn't need to crack the map. But this is fine. I did kill a creature with that. If I miss this turn, I get to cast Beaumont Bazaar Barge, crew a Sky Skiff, have the Sky Skiff trade off into one of these, and go to 8. Yeah, I do have a fine backup plan if I miss, so I'm just gonna not. And then this way, if I hit, I have really good blocks, as I get to crew and block and also have the Self-Assembler up. Beautiful draw for us this turn. Now is where we're trying to stabilize and turn the corner. Have better, bigger plays and more card advantage than our opponent. As we've seen in many of our super long board stalls. Grind out the long game from here as long as we're stable. We are indeed stable. They go to pass the turn. I'll go ahead and scry. Artisan's fine. I think we're keeping basically anything but lands on top at this point. Have I scried anything to the bottom? Sure have not. So I could self-assembler and shuffle for fun. But I'll play the slightly better creature for now. Could actually attack now, because they only kill self-assembler with a double block, and I'll still have 2 blockers up myself. Clearing out 2 creatures at the cost of 1 does feel valuable, even if it is a bigger creature of ours. And they're just going to let the damage in, that's fair. Down to 16. Implement of Examination, draw 2. Alright, well their deck definitely plays out a good, long, grindy game as well. They've played some Nimble Innovators to draw a card, Implement of Examination, Implement Examination to draw 2. Ooh, another one, okay. Might actually have more card advantage than us for the long game for sure, but we've still got more beef. We might actually have to try to play the aggressor now. Keep just jamming here. Yeah, leaving the dust does help with the aggressive roll. It's going to really ruin a double block if they go for it. If they don't block at all, we'll just play the 4/4. They do go for the double block, so we'll ruin that here. Still trample over for 1,000,000, kill both these cards. Not bouncing the Rebel, because obviously that can kill another card. If they sack the Implement of Examination to trigger Revolt and then play it. Drew into our Rishkar's Expertise, so now I am actually pretty happy to hit a 6th land off of a Theorist Scry. So they crack the elements, the implements. Am I ever going to say that right? Draw 2. Tezzeret the Schemer. So he's obviously an issue. They don't have enough artifacts on board to use the removal spell -2. They just get a treasure token here. They're called Ethereum cells, but they're just treasure tokens. Nimble Innovator. Alright, so we're just going to have to send it at Tezzeret here. Pretty confident. Because we're quite unlikely to lethal them, but we can hit Tezzeret hard enough to keep him from removal spelling next turn. Might be able to lethal Tezzeret as well. We'll see. I mean, we'll do the math here. If I attack them with 2 4/4s, they do have to chump at least one of them. If I attack Tezzeret with 2 4/4s, they could let it all in and let Tezzeret die. Skyskiff is not exactly what I want here. I'm looking for that Rishkar's Expertise mana so I can double spell. That is not that. So, what's the plan? If I crew the Skyskiff here, I get to lock in, hit something for 6 minimum. Because if I crew Skyskiff, they can double block one of the 4/4s and then the other 6 damage gets through. So I can just like guaranteed kill Tezzeret here and know that I'm not going to have to deal with that. I guess they could technically save Tezzeret at the cost of like their whole board. It would be really bad. They'd have a 2 loyalty Tezzeret. And they'd have to go chump here and stop 2 damage there. Yeah, so let's just deal with Tezzeret, because I can't lethal them. I could hit them for 6. So I'd rather just completely deal with Tezzeret. I know there's no way that that's going to turn the game around for them. Have this really big board to grind out the kill over the next couple turns instead. Dukara P-Foul, 2/4 body, pretty chunky. It's actually really nice on the board being able to stack up alongside a 2/2. I only get to kill one of their blockers if they go 2/2 and 2/4 on a 4/4. And same with a 3/3, so they're going to put a 3/3 and a 2/2 on one of them, 2/2 and a 2/4 on one of them. The other one gets in for 4 still, so it's still an attack all here. Actually, the Swooper's a pretty good draw. I think the extra trample damage is relevant. Right, because it's going to be a 6/6 here, so if they go 2/2 and 2/4 on it, they don't take any damage, but I kill both and don't lose the Tiger. If they go 3/3 and 2/2, I kill both and don't lose the Tiger. Yeah, the energy is definitely relevant. Sky Skiff bounces off P-Foul, but there's enough attackers here that would stop that from blocking anywhere else, so we're going to send that in as well. Because I think the P-Foul is going to have to be blocking, helping block one of the 4/4s here. Probably casting High Spire Artisan here, post-combat. Yeah, I think we're still playing to the board, even if it's just a 1-power creature. Take 6, go to 2. This looks pretty good to me. They're going to go to 2. We're going to kill 3 of their creatures. They're going to kill 1 of ours. I think I kill the 2/4 over the 3/3. They're very comparable. I mean, they're both 6 total power and toughness. I guess because the Trampler will still be around, I think it is going to be just clearing out the higher toughness card. I think I'm going to cruise Skyskiff with a servo. Leave the Artisan chilling. Because I'm somewhat low at 11, but highly doubt they can accomplish any kind of counterattack. I'm just like still thinking sort of Ether Drift style, where it's like, well, what if they play Packdoll Terror into Haunt the Network and just drain me for a bunch of life? Then it'd be nice to be attacking with Skip, but still blocking 1/1 flyers with Artisan. But it's like, this is not Ether Drift. Gotta get that format out of my head as we move towards Variety Draft season and Tarkir Dragonstorm season. Maybe that's why our deck is so grindy and it's been playing such long games. Is that, like, I've just been playing so much Ether Drift, I'm just kind of drafting a little bit Ether Drift style still. I don't know. I think this was a really solid deck, though, just in general, for Kaladesh Remastered. I don't think anything about this deck is super wrong for the format. I mean, the massive pivot, the full 2-color pivot, that's very Kaladesh Remastered. Like, you just have enough solid good commons. You have enough solid artifacts that you can do those kind of things in a lot of drafts. Now, we were still, like, by this format standards, pretty light on the good colorless cards to go for the 2-color full pivot, but I do think it really worked out. I think we saw a lot better blue-green throughout the rest of that draft than black-red. But there were a lot of other ways to have drafted this pod, like maybe if we just pushed on those good white spells there and became some kind of Boros or Orzhov deck, we'd still be fine. Alright, there's the GG from opponent. They did have a make obsolete to reduce the damage here, but it is still just enough to swing in for lethal there. And we are now 4-1, heading into game number 6. Alright, here we are on the play for game 6. There's a big gap in our mana curve, which is awkward, but I got my 1 mana 1/4. It's a pretty good stat line. Fine way to start us off. And the very top of the curve is very fun, with our Rishkar's expertise. Wee, big turtle. Playing against a green-white deck, and they start with Audacious Infiltrator. Pretty happy to have the 1/4 against that. I would rather stop 3 damage than deal 1. So unless they've got the trick in hand, they don't get the swing, and they did not have the trick. And now here's a 0/5 to stop that Infiltrator damage regardless, and get me some more counters on my turtle. Thank you for the energy, Shipwreck Moray. They're down to 17. I just Rishkar's expertising off of a big turtle. That would be hilarious. I can make this turtle 4 power by the end of this. It's a draw 4 expertise, which is pretty decent. I could only draw 4 off of Moray also, because I would just activate twice. Yeah, I guess we're trying to make a 4 power thriving turtle for our Rishkar's expertise. Oh, that is goofy. 1 mana 3/6. Let's go. Please do not exile or destroy this turtle. If they pacify it, that's kind of bad, but I do still draw 4 off of Moray. Yeah, no, I guess I can still draw 4 off of Moray if they don't kill the turtle at instant speed. If they kill the turtle at instant speed after I spend another 2 energy on it, that will be devastating. Okay, this has more toughness than their whole board. Well, no, I guess they have 8 power, I'll have 7 toughness. But it does have more toughness than their board, but not more toughness than their board has power. Okay, if they block, we leave in the dust, and our opponent cries themselves to sleep tonight. Alright, deal 4. Expertise. Draw 5 drop? Draw like a self-assembler or something? No 5 drop. None of these are incredible to cast here. I think I just Trophy Mage, get the good 2 for 1. Yeah, I don't mind that. Full grip of cards even after all this aggro. The turtle aggro we got here. Dawn Feather Eagle is nasty. That is a sick, sick top end card for the white decks in the format. I guess I could just trump with this turtle. It's not really doing anything. We're all stacked in on the other one. Okay. So, attacker is still great, but I really don't mind getting even more energy. Kind of want to hold up Leave in the Dust. Let's play a Theorist and hold up Leave in the Dust. Turtle, turtle, turtle. Goodbye, 1/1. Alright, so I mean, now that eliminates half their life total, if it ever touches them, so I think we can stop putting energy into that. Play Implement and Skyskiff for mana efficiency. Can't cast anything else while holding up Leave in the Dust, but I'm at 15 life, so I don't need to be able to cast it here. This is way too high toughness to ever die to green removal. I guess I could go Swooper and Implement here also. I think I'd rather Skyskiff, because Skyskiff actually blocks and kills Pioneer without dying, where the Swooper does not. Could also go Skiff plus Swooper. But I just don't think Swooper's going to be blocking it all here anyway. Alright, take 3, go to 12. Wild Wanderer, they're going to ramp up a little. Still think I'm in the aggressive lead to attack with Skyskiff next turn rather than hold it up as a blocker. We're at 12, they're at 10. I'm going to get the first swing in here. Bunch of mana to play another blocker. Oh yeah, especially with a High Spire Artisan. Play that instead of leaving the dust up. Well, I do like a 1-4 reach against their board. A 1-4 reach against that eagle. Yeah, sorry, Theorist. I guess we're not using your ability here. Because the 1-4 reach is just too good to be crewing with that thing. Uh-oh. Lagging a little bit. There we go. Oh, right. They can just Death Touch trade here. I don't enjoy that. I forgot about Narnum Cobra's ability. But I have to just leave in the dust the Cobra. No, but I do need to assemble a different way to break through now. You don't know, I probably do, because the 5/8 even on blocks is going to be ridiculously good. Okay. Rebuke's a little awkward. Because I'm exactly 1 mana from being able to hold that up. And cast a creature. So I could play Artisan and get a Servo and then have 2 untapped artifacts here. I guess I could hold up the Rebuke, and then if I don't cast it, I just draw 2. But I take a somewhat significant hit here. Take like an 8. Yeah, that was kind of a big punt. Pretty bad swing there, not noticing the Narnum Cobra. Yeah, I don't think I can afford to not play another blocker through that swing. And we really get punished for it, because that is something we would really need to counter. There's no other way to deal with it. It is just a 5/4 on their board, but even a 5/4 is quite bad. Thank you, Shipwreck Moray, for being consistently awesome today. Alright, well, we've got a 5/5 to trade into their 5/4, so there's that. So we're just back in the board stall then. Now. So hold up the counter spell for sure. But I could play Swooper and hold it up. Nobody has good attacks for now. Till we find like our Ether Meltdown or something. And we get to scry here turn over turn and draw better in the top deck war, as Ether Theorist does for you. Thriving Rhino, uncounterable for now. They have too much mana up. I can counter the Artisan, and they have so many lands, I'm unlikely to be able to counter other things in the future. Could have actually tapped my mana in a way where I could have cracked Implement this turn too, but I did it wrong. I don't actually think I auto-tapped either. I think I manually tapped in a dumb way. I might have auto-tapped, I don't remember. But I should have kept just as much blue as possible up. Alright, let's scry through the top deck war. Put a land on the bottom. Draw for turn. Ornamental Courage. Kind of spicy. That can beat the Dawnfeather Eagle, and then we get to start attacking for 2 a turn in the sky. Once the Eagle's gone, it's going to be a 6 toughness Sky Skiff, so even if they double block, this does work here. I don't yet have a good creature to crew with, though. So let's see what we draw into. Another Sky Skiff? And a land. Okay, so I guess I do have to crew with like Ether Theorist here and give up on Scry for 1 turn. Maybe it's better to crew with Ether Swooper, actually. It probably is. Alright, we eat the Dawn Feather Eagle, and I can get 4 damage a turn in the sky now, between 2 Sky Skiffs, so we can kill them in 2 more turns after this. Tapped out of my scry like a doofus. Ether Swooper, even though it is flying, is not very relevant because I have a 1-4 reach and 2/2/3s up as blocks. But they're just going to scoop there anyway. Alright, some slightly loose lines there, but all plays out super fine for us, and we are 5-1 now, locking in a very, very solid win rate, as well as being in the money out of our first return Premier Draft of Kaladesh Remastered, no matter what. It's a really nice spot to be as we move into game number 7. For game 7, we are on the play again, very nice. Sky Skiff, Theorist, Implement, Rebuke. Don't love drawing the Implement before our Trophy Mage, but we have a nice, consistent start here. Ooh. I like casting Swooper before anybody else so that we get those attack triggers going as quickly as possible. Flood the board with some servos. There's our opponent with the Ether Chaser trying to do the same. Could Ether Meltdown? There's a lot of ways to play this. So I can Ether Meltdown the Ether Chaser and block with a servo and just straight kill it and get more energy. I could also cast a Sky Skiff and have a servo, which means that Metallic Rebuke is untapped here. I could also just play the Ether Theorist, which is a 1/3, which forces removal on the Ether Theorist or a combat trick from our opponent to send in. Again, there are a multitude of ways to play this. I think with a deck that is so light on interaction, I would like to conserve Ether Meltdown for a better creature for sure, and probably Rebuke as well. So I think I'm just going to play Theorist here. I think we would rather have Rebuke up for something a little bigger than a 3-drop. And this will force them to have some way to get through Theorist to get the damage in regardless. Daredevil Dragster. It's a pretty good one. It's going to turn into a draw 2 after it's attacked or blocked twice. Rogue Refiner, also a pretty good one, is our draw. Really want to have Rebuke up now that they're at 4 mana though, and have some card draw coming up, and it's not too hard for me to hold up now because I can Skiff, hold up a Rebuke, and still have pretty significant board here. Meltdown is 2 energy, so that's 1 more servo off of Ether Meltdown. So I can spend this 1 random energy on Theorist. There's a 1 mana 2/3. Fireweaver I don't think is scary enough to counter. It's going to ping me 1 for every servo they play, which does stack up into a chunk of damage. Not a horrifically huge amount. Could kill the Dragster with a Sky Skiff and a 1/1 servo. It is going to like just shred through 2 of my servos and draw them 2 cards otherwise, so that does feel slightly more favorable. I don't remember a 1 black mana combat trick in this format, but I suppose if there is one, I'm going to get blown out here. But I think they're all 2 mana, right? There's like Subtle Strike and then the lifelink thing. Rush of Vitality. Those are both 2 mana spells. Okay, missed the land again. Can play an Ether Meltdown and still have Metallic Rebuke up. That's it. To hold up Rebuke. I think we just pass. And just kind of have blocks for their stuff here. I don't even think I'd poke for 1, honestly. Just to have more blockers up. Okay, yeah, Menace card's scary enough to rebuke, but I can also melt down that and save rebuke, but they're getting towards enough mana they could start paying for this later. I think I will rebuke over meltdown. Scry in the end step. Find the land. Beautiful. Beautiful stuff. Let's get some energy. Get some servos hanging around. Get a self-assembler, ideally for next turn. Yeah, they're just going to concede. I mean, we're 4 cards ahead already, and I have more scry, more servos if I need them. They are pretty over it with the more aggressive deck against a very value-based deck like ours, and that is 6-1. We're only 1 win away from a full 7-win trophy run here for maximum prize out in this Kaladesh draft. This has been a pretty sweet one. Again, I don't think our deck has been playing out very indicatively of the way that this format usually does, because I do prefer more aggressive decks, but you can, again, do these more board stally decks like the one that we're playing here. Definitely these grindier card advantage decks. They are possible, so this is a part of the format. But we did get to show off a lot of stuff about Kaladesh Remastered that I think is very true of the format, with all the colorless cards, the big pivot, and we're showing off a lot of classic vehicles here. We got Sky Skiffs, we got a Beaumont Bazaar Barge. This has been a pretty sick run so far, and hopefully we can top it off with that little icing on the cake of a 7-win run here. So 6-1, heading into that final boss. All right, here we are for the final boss with a really awkward opener, but I still want to keep it because I just love keeping hands where I have both my colors and a decent amount of lands. There are 0 proactive plays here. There's no creatures. There's a combat trick in a hand that has no creatures. There's a 1 removal spell, 1 counter spell. Just cross our fingers. A Rishkar's Expertise also does nothing if I don't draw creatures, but I'm just going to keep it, and I'm going to top deck creatures. It's as simple as that. Just draw the creatures, and then the hand is good. Island is the first draw, which is honestly not horrific. We're trying to make it to 6 mana. There's Servant of the Conduit. Oof. Servant of the Conduit on the play, so I can't rebuke it or anything here. I do find the High Spire Artisan, but our opponent is going to start with infinite mana off of Attune with Ether into Servant of the Conduit. They get a 4-drop here. And again, because they're on the play, I don't have Rebuke up yet, because we're on the draw, so that resolves. I can melt down that at least, and it's basically useless. Now I get to rebuke the next card. That feels better than playing an Artisan or a Swooper right now, because their next card's a 5-drop. Yeah. Oh boy. This truly is a final boss here with the quality of plays they've dropped so far. So here's the Swooper Sky Skiff, and now they get to know that whatever they play here is just gonna resolve on us. Another boar. Fair enough. Not the absolute end of the world, but it is really bad. Okay, we missed a land here, so we're still a minimum of 2 turns away from Rishkar's Expertise. Do not see a lot of value attacking with Sky Skiff here. I think I need to... Artisan, hold up Courage, double block with a 2/3 and a 1/4. Save one of those with Courage and eat the boar. Kind of feels like the best we got. So I need the Servo to crew the Skiff. I mean, I could crew a Swooper too, but I think I should be getting Servos here, especially when I have the vehicle. Here's Artisan. Counter on that. Pass. Alright, and here's where things suck if they have any instants, but... Oops. Well, I guess I'm not even taking the risk. Like, it could be right to just let that through and not take the risk, so I don't hate that I accidentally misclicked and took the damage. But I was gonna say, here's where we're doing that thing where we're blocking against a million open mana from our opponent. And getting blown out if they have a combat trick. But I guess we're not doing that because I misclicked. So here's Thriving Turtle. Now they only have one card left in hand. I'm not in a good spot, as I said before, but not miles away from being in a decent position. Can't attack in the Voyager anymore. I need to Sky Skiff the Imperial Voyager away. I do really need to draw one of my 5 mana 4/4s or 6 mana 5/6 or something so that I have something big for this expertise. But if I top deck one of my beefy creatures, one of my 4/4s or my 5/6, and it just survives for a turn and we expertise the turn after that, that's going to be a massive swing in our favor to where I think we could turn this game around. But that's not a lot of outs, honestly. That's just like one major out here. Okay. 4/4 and a 3/4. Can be blocked by creature's power 2 or less. Oh, I didn't misclick. I just couldn't even try to double block that. That is actually really relevant with the way this board looks right now. Awkward. So I guess we have to block Mobile Garrison. And they don't get to kill anybody unless they have an instant. They do not. We go down to 12. Six trample. Jeez, this game. Okay, and we draw something that does not affect the board at all. Quite bad this turn. But better than the land for expertise. I wouldn't really want to expertise for 2. Well, there you go. We do draw into the Theorist, but now I'm sitting here with all the mana to expertise for 2 cards, which is just not worth it. Opponent just has 2 beefy green beef here. They got the green eggs and ham. I can't really take this and go to 2, but at the same time, I can't chump Outland Boar. It's literally unblockable. And I can't chump Cavalry because it has Trample. I could soak up 4 damage with Artisan, or 3 with Turtle. I'm just going to take it. And I could block Cavalry with my entire board and pray. They just have another one anyway. Jeez. Alright. Opponent hits us with the beef. And we are 6-2. Heading into the final battle. This next game will be the last game of Magic today. No matter what, win or lose. Alright, here we are for the final battle. With a very bad hand. 3 islands, 2 green cards, nothing to cast till turn 5. This one I will actually legitimately mulligan. 3 forests, 3 blue spells is the mull to 6 here. We have Bazaar Barge no matter what on 4, but that doesn't attack or block by itself, but it does draw towards the island. If I immediately top deck the island, the hand's good, but if I don't, I kind of just sit here and do nothing and get killed by even just 2 mana 2/2 into 3 mana 3/3. Rough, but it looks like the draft is ending off with a forced mull to 5 here on the play too. So we don't draw a card on our first turn, but Rogue Refiner's a 2-for-1 right there. I quite enjoy that. Let's go tempted to go all in on Thriving Turtle here. I think this is a goofy plan, but it has worked for us before. I'm going to go Turtle Zone here. See if we can't thrive today. Playing against a white deck. We do draw into the third land, so ditching one of the lands works well for us. Cog Workers Puzzle Knot for some servos. We're definitely not melting down a servo. Uh-oh, another land for us. We'll see if Rogue's Refiner hits anything to cast next turn. Gear Seeker for 10 centuries from now, I guess. Cultivator's Caravan from our opponent. We've seen so many caravans today. It's kind of wild. Self-Assembler is exactly the kind of card I'm looking for right now. Another solid 2-for-1 play. I think the only way that doesn't work out well for us is if we top deck the other copy, which is very unlikely to hit the one of in the next 31 before just any land in the deck. But that is a beautiful, beautiful draw. Because again, I mean, they're like 6 cards ahead right now. So we need more 2-for-1s to stay in this. Another Puzzle Knots and an Ether Swooper. Sure, those are pretty good, but not particularly great blockers. Then I have the Ether Meltdown if they try to do any funny business. Surprisingly doing funny business, but honestly I don't mind it when I have a Self-Assembler coming up, so we will kill the Swooper and the Servo, grab a Self-Assembler from the deck, save the Meltdown to protect something more important like a Self-Assembler, and then a 3-2. Glintsleeve Artisan. They are stuck on mana over there. I mean, they've got the Caravan, so they've got 3 white and 1 of anything, but they didn't play land 4. So the aggressive start might just be enough. I don't have double blue for Serpent, so I'm also kind of stuck on mana here, which is awkward. No Gear Seeker this turn. Gear Seeker would be exceptional here. But another Self-Assembler is still good. It's just beef in this set. Oh right, they can crew Caravan now? God, why is Caravan gotta be so filthy? I should have just cast another Self-Assembler, now I have to melt down a Caravan. Which is a pretty big waste of a turn. When I get to hit for 2 this way that I wouldn't have otherwise, but it would have been better to just have another 4-4. No, it's a pretty big miss. It's so easy to forget you can crew a Caravan because it's just sitting there as a mana rock. It's always relevant as a mana rock, so it's very easy to forget that it's also a vehicle. Expertise. Bounce our stuff back. Get rid of the counters on it. That is super nasty. I have a decent amounts of mana to work things back on the board, but now all of our early aggro plans are just left in the dust, and our opponent does have time to leverage their card advantage against us, because we just have no pressure now. Yep, there's an Innovator now. Do believe in the dust to ruin some of their blocks here. Play a Sky Skiff and do that. This Dragster is a massive issue, actually. Kind of just blanks our attacks altogether. Because if I have to leave in the dust and put a Dragster back in their hand, we're just not in a good spot, so I'm just like playing a 4-4 and passing. Because yeah, otherwise they just crew a Dragster and then I have to leave in the dust a Dragster. I don't even kill anything for doing that. Just have them chump with like a 1/1 servo. When they have 2 more from these puzzle knots. Yeah, they're pretty stable here. We're gonna have to do a grindy game again. We're trying to win with flyers and evasive threats like Gear Seeker Serpent. And on a multi 5, we don't really have the card advantage in our favor for the grindy game, so I'm getting quite worried by how stable our opponent is at this point. And there's that next blue mana for Gear Seeker Serpent. I think that's going to be the last thing I cast. To see if I can pull removal from our opponent on absolutely anything else. Such as Sky Skiff to start hitting for 2 a turn here. Yeah, I think I can skip out on casting it right now to try to pull removal elsewhere. From a blue-white deck where they could have like a counter unless we pay 3 and we don't have that 3 up. If I top deck a land, I might just cast it here when I've got the extra 3. Okay, let's see if we can pull something out on this Sky Skiff. Drawing to the next one is really nice. Oh, I already can pay the 3 if they have a counter unless I pay 3. And they don't want to blow up a Sky Skiff. So, yeah, sure. Go for a Gear Seeker. Got the 3 up. They haven't gone for removal yet. Leave in the dust for the bounce. Okay. I should have played the other Sky Skiff. I don't know why I didn't. It's been a lot of little mind farts today. No reason not to. I just kind of, I guess because these are flyers or something, my brain was like defaulting to these being blue spells or something. Fumigate? Nah, that's pretty devastating. Imagine being on a multi-5 and then getting like X for 1 to buy a board wipe too. That's pretty absurd. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's just board wipes unlimited. We just lost the game now. And that's all there is to it. 6-3 is going to be the final record. I got no threats at all, unless I hit cards through the skiffs, and even then they've got the big 5-6 and the dragster to draw 2. Game just instantly ended there. I think that was still a pretty solid showing from this deck, though. 6-3 is a very, very solid run. We're super positive for the win rate, and we are super in the money here. I think if they did not have a Fumigate, we actually were potentially taking this game over. Yeah, because without the Fumigate, they didn't have any removal. So we actually would have been winning off the double skiff. So even with the multitude, we could have beaten them if they didn't have the bomb rare. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts. Cost 5 less. Wow. I guess if they attack with Dragster, they crack it, draw 2. And then they only have 1, 2, 3, 4 artifacts, and Gear Seeker costs 3. And they can't recast it this turn because these are spread apart, which means that one of these was played this turn. They've already played land for turn. So we can bounce the Gear Seeker and they can't recast it this turn. Oh, they have Caravan just taps for mana anyway. Alright, I mean, it doesn't matter. We flood out too. But I guess we're 20 cards deep into our deck, so it kind of makes sense we've hit at least half our lands. Yep. I mean, they got me. That is going to be 6-3 to end off the Kaladesh remastered draft. The first draft of the return to the original vehicles format. I'm definitely going to be grinding out a bunch more of these drafts. So don't worry, we still have plenty chances to trophy in the format. And this run was still pretty good. 6 and 3, 1,800 gems and 5 packs. Those are pretty huge prizes. I would have liked to be on a slightly quicker deck for a slightly quicker run, but I'm pretty happy with how that draft went. I mean, there were a lot of decisions that panned out quite well for us. Again, we pretty locked in on the Rakdos there with the Stalker and the Marionette Master, but just saw better Simic flying around. The pivot to Simic leads us to a 6-3 deck here. Feels pretty good. Showed off those really strong colorless spells that managed to fit into your deck, whatever colors you end up playing. The self-assemblers as well, consistently great. Really, really solid time on the return to Kaladesh, but once again, there's going to be plenty more in the near future. I am very excited to hop right back into this format and play this format for another draft tomorrow. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in the recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.